Test.
There, is that better? Okay. Bob, would you please do the roll call for the board, please?
Noon directors, can you please indicate your attendance when I call your name? I would usually start with Director Smith, but I think we've already been informed he will not be here today. So Director Slash,
Present.
Director Quick,
Present.
Director Fagan, Director Wilson,
Present.
and Director Hahn.
Present.
I do not see Vice Chair Gardner, but we do have a quorum.
I think he's on the way.
Okay. We do have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Next are awards and accommodations. And our president and CEO, Jennifer Purrs, will present those awards.
Good afternoon, everyone. President and CEO Jennifer Pierce here. We'll start out like we always do with Safe Drivers List. So this is the list of folks who in January of 2026 completed their or are awarded recognition for their safe driving record. They all received a National Safety Council patch, pin, and certificate for their great driving in January. I'll highlight the first person on this list, Mr. James Wilson, who is a coach operator on our fixed route service. He's been with us for 47 years. Yes, and yeah. And just as impressive, 35 of those years has had a completely safe driving record. So amazing. Our February operations employee of the month is Mr. Floyd Houston. The person nominating him told me that Mr. Houston continues to use life's challenges as motivation, setting an example of excellence in public transit service for his peers and our passengers. His positive influence encourages other operators to carry themselves with a reassuring manner and a sense of style that truly refreshes the spirit. Day in and day out, Mr. Houston keeps his coach running smoothly, even when things don't go exactly as planned. So congratulations to Mr. Floyd Houston. Next, yay. I want to highlight a couple things that our team has done since we last met that I was especially excited about. This is a new version of our network map. It is a redesign that was a brainchild of Jack Treber, one of our teammates in the service planning group. Yes. He saw an opportunity to represent accessibility and convenience more deliberately on our map and to be a little bit more forward thinking. So some of the features that went into this map that are different from what we've had out there before, from an accessibility standpoint, the text and the route labels are larger and each route stands out with a white buffer around it. We're symbolizing the route frequency, not just by the color, but there's also different line weights to help us identify frequency, which makes it more accessible to viewers with color vision deficiencies. And the text in the title and legend has Spanish translations. So those are new features. We've also added trails as transportation. We know that trails are an integral part of a lot of our residents' commutes, including as a way to get to and from our stops. And so Jack added trails and protected bike lanes to our system map to help make sure people had an easy way to get around. He's also added night service information. So a standard bus network map only shows weekday peak alignments and schedules, which is when the largest number of trips are made and when we have the best service, but it doesn't tell the full story. So here Jack included a moon icon next to any route that has service after 9:30 p.m. with the same frequency color symbology as the routes. And then finally, there's all sorts of other little Easter eggs in there. One of them is new shading on the map that indicates things like parks, hospitals, and special land uses. So we're super excited about this update. I'm looking forward to hearing how our customers like it. And I want to thank Jack once again for his leadership and seeing something that could be improved. That looks great. And along those same lines, I also want to highlight an innovation that our staff put together back in operations. So we have a number of low clearance bridges around the city, and they present a significant operational and financial risk, particularly when buses are detoured or operating outside of their normal routes. A single bridge strike, which, like this one in the photo, can cost more than $100,000 in repairs, and it can remove a vehicle from service for several months. It directly affects not only our reliability, but our fleet availability. So the team had explored solutions with multiple bus manufacturers, but was not receiving a viable option. And so in response, they developed an in-house solution that's practical, cost-effective, and focused on prevention. The approach strengthens safety, protects our capital assets, and reduces exposure to avoidable service disruptions. A strong example of internal innovation mitigating enterprise risk. So on the right-hand side, that little machine was printed with a 3D printer. And as a bus approaches a low bridge, it has been geofenced to alert the driver that they are approaching a low bridge. And so they don't have to rely on signs, which are pretty easy to just kind of ignore once you've been through them a million times. or, some of these other kind of low-tech ways, but this actually starts flashing and sends an alert. So next slide shows the innovators that put this together, led under our Director of Maintenance, Cherno Balde, with Will Bolton, high voltage technician, and Andrew Duncan, also a high voltage technician. So kudos to the three of them, again, for finding an opportunity and coming up with a solution. And then lastly, I want to welcome Justin Burkhope to the executive team in the role of interim chief financial officer. Justin's been with us a while, but for those of you that don't know him, he comes with nearly a decade of Indigo experience with progressive leadership roles across budgeting and financial management within our finance department. As our budget director, he's led our annual agency-wide budget development and ongoing budget management for the last 4 years, working closely with departments to ensure strong fiscal discipline and alignment with our strategic priorities. He has been a consistent, trusted lead in our board-facing financial work and in shaping long-term fiscal sustainability as we deliver our major capital programs. So we're glad to have Justin on the team. Thank you for allowing me that time, Chairman. That is all I have.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to note for the record that Director Gardner arrived just after the roll call.
Thank you. Next will be item number 3, and that's the committee reports. And without objection, we will enter into the record the Service Committee report for its meeting on February the 12th, 2026.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to object, but I would like to ask Matt, could I possibly get a copy of the red line after traffic study, the report? Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, absolutely. Is there any objections to entering the Service Committee report into the record? Okay, let the record show there's no objection and it will be entered into the record. Next is we move to our regular agenda, and we will begin with action item A1, consideration and approval of the board minute meetings from January 15th, 2026. Are there any questions or comments from the board members concerning the minutes? Okay, can I get a motion for consideration and approval of the January 15th, 2026 board meeting minutes?
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Let the record show there was no opposed vote, so unanimous approval. Next is action item A2, consideration and approval of slate of nominees for the 2026 board officer positions, and our Chief Legal Officer, Bob Fry, will present.
Good afternoon, directors. It is recommended that the board approve the following slate of nominees for the positions, for the various board positions, officer positions, excuse me. President Gregory Hahn, Vice President Adarius Gardner, Treasurer Richard Wilson Jr., Secretary Mary Ann Fagan. If this slate is approved, each nominee will serve in their respective board officer positions from February 2026 through January 2027. When we hold the next election or until their successor is duly elected. As I reported to you at your meeting last month, when we did nominations, effectively each person that I've read out was nominated for that position, so we don't really have to have a true election, just an approval of this slate. So with that, Mr. Chair, you can just have a motion, second, and vote, and we'll be good to go.
Bob, do we have any comments or questions on the nominations? Okay, and then if not, can I get a motion for consideration and approval of the slate of nominees for the 2026 board officer positions?
So moved.
Okay, there being a motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Let the record show the unanimous vote of ayes. Thank you. Next is action item A3, consideration approval of contract for fractional executive support. President and CEO Jennifer Purrs will present.
Good afternoon again, Jennifer Pierce, President and CEO. We are recommending that the Board of Directors authorize myself to execute a contract with Human Zone Biz for fractional executive support in an amount not to exceed $200,000 for a period of up to 6 months. So we are working through a leadership transition in the Department of People and wanted to preserve capacity as we go through this and make sure that we can maintain the very vital service that that group provides. We are happy to have Claudia Williams from Human Zone Biz, an executive coach and leadership expert with experience in labor relations and HR leadership and employment compliance, who is willing to jump in and help us through this transition. We will use her only as long as it takes to get a new person in that role. So we could be under this time and under this total amount. But she is planning to help us not only provide the support to our team through this transition, but also support me in the search for a new chief people officer and actually help us transition that person in so that we can have some sort of seamless transition and keep things running. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Comments from the board members? Okay. Seeing none, can I get a motion for consideration and approval of contract for fractional executive support?
So moved. Second.
Okay, there being a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Let the record show there's no nays, unanimous vote to pass. Next, action item A4, consideration approval of new Indigo Foundation board member. Foundation Executive Director Emily Mew will present.
Good afternoon, directors. Emily Moe, Executive Director of the Indigo Foundation, here to request approval of a new board member. This individual is named Mark Young. I believe he might be on the call today in case you have questions for him. But as a reminder of why I'm here and why you'll see me probably more this year for this, the bylaws of Indigo Foundation require your approval for our new board members. One small correction, our foundation board currently consists of 15 members. We had one resign since I submitted this, and our bylaws allow us to go up to 19 members. So there's plenty of room to welcome Mark. And at our last board meeting in January, the foundation board approved him or approved recommending him to Indigo board for your final approval. So happy to answer any questions you may have about Mr. Young.
Any questions or comments from the board? If not, can I get a motion for consideration and approval of the new Indigo Board Foundation member, Mr. Mark Young?
So moved.
Second.
There being a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect there are no nay votes, so it's a unanimous approval. Thank you a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thanks, Emily. Next is action item A5, consideration approval of the 2026 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. And Manager Risk and Safety Director Kevin Newman will make that presentation.
And directors, my name is Kevin Newman. I'm the manager for risk and safety. I'm here today for consideration and approval of our 2026 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, or PTASP, as it's called. It's recommended that the board of directors approve updates and revisions to the Indigo Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. The Federal Transit Administration requires each transit agency to have a PTASP plan, which is a formal top-down organization-wide approach to managing safety and risk and assuring the effectiveness of transit agency safety practices and culture. The plan aims to enhance transit safety by establishing a framework for agencies to manage safety risks and continuously improve their safety performance targets. The plan defines safety accountability at all levels throughout the agency. The federal regulations require that PTASP be audited and revised annually, updated requirements, data analysis, all our safety key performance indicators. This goes through our Safety and Security Committee. They vote and approve all of our risk functions. They did so on January 28th with a 10-0 vote for approval. No fiscal impact, and there's no DBE or XBE declarations. I'm happy to answer any questions. That's it.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Are there any questions or comments from the board for Kevin? Okay, seeing none, can get a motion for consideration and approval of the 2026 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan.
So moved.
Second? All right. There being a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Chair does not hear any nays, so it's approved unanimously. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Next, item A6, consideration approval of Able Technologies renewal. And our Chief Information Officer, Marcus Burnside, will make that presentation.
Good afternoon, directors. Chief Information Officer Marcus Burnside. I'm here to present my first action item. Action item A6, consideration and approval of Vail Technologies contract. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to approve a 5-year contract with Vail Technologies for cloud hosting, equipment maintenance, and vehicle location management in an amount not to exceed $2,146,637. IPTC has been using Vail Technologies since 2018 for dispatching software, GPS location, displaying information to in-vehicle peripherals, yard management, and cloud hosting, which was added in December of 2022. The Vail Technologies CAD-AVL contract continues through February 28, 2026. A full fleet replacement with another CAD-AVL vendor will cost an estimated $10 to $12 million based on current market pricing and operational requirements. Therefore, IPTC has opted to enter into a new contract with Vail Technologies. This procurement will allow IPTC to purchase licensing equipment, maintenance, support, and cloud hosting services for its production environment from March 1st, 2026 to February 28th, 2031, way out there. The action item lists the advantages with enterprise license with this agreement. Just want to note that any new feature developed over the contract term will be included in our license, which avoids the need for task orders or addendums during the contract term. The fiscal impact, this project will be funded from the information technology operating budget. The cost for Vail Technology products and services is listed for each year in increments, not quite that much each year. So $406,891 for 2026. $417,778 for 2027, $428,991 for 2028, $440,541 for 2029, and finally $452,437 for 2030, all totaling $2,146,637. For XB declaration, there is no XB participation for this procurement because there are no certified firms or subcontracting opportunities. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hey, Marcus, this is
Yep.
probably my ignorance on AI stuff, but does AI come into play with any of this as we go down the road?
Right now, they're currently developing some form of AI technology within their actual back office and cloud hosting product. We've been told that they're going to be implementing AI in future features. They just want to make sure that it's not just some broad stroke use of AI, but it's going to be applicable to the platform.
And then would that be part of this contract?
Yes,
then?
anything
Okay.
that they come out with new features, we automatically get it as far as the contract is concerned. So like, for instance, if we were trying to get a new feature on the previous contract, we would say, okay, it costs $350,000 for that. And we would have to do a separate task order, get the contract amended and so forth. with this license, all that will be like included. We won't have to pay any extra.
I just looking over what is included in this technology agreement. From everything you read, it just sounds like a lot of this is going to be coordinated and could come under AI, which would hopefully, improve our communications in this entire area.
Right, for instance, the Avail 360 and the high density AVL, yes, exactly. They will actually be incorporating some type of AI mechanism. Obviously, they won't just disclose whether they're going to put it at
Right.
because it's proprietary information. But I've been told that they're going to be incorporating that as they develop new features for their platform.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I do.
Go ahead.
Marcus, have we engaged with have we done like the annual system health visits from their subject matter experts, and have we found those productive in the past?
Yes, so when they come on site, they work with operations in my group, and they do like training, but it's usually by request and not necessarily something scheduled. And with this agreement, it's going to put that annual, could be semi-annual too. So maybe not just one. I think they just committed to be required to have one, but under this agreement, we can ask for additional ones, as long as it's not excessive, right? That for the training of their product to come on site to do that. They like to do that just to see. I appreciate vendors that try to attempt to do how their customer is actually doing on site, not through a call per se. So this will be a good opportunity for them to do that. They've come on site and they're very impressed with the way that we handle their product. A lot of agencies don't have they're not structured the way we're structured with the SME and with a group that just particularly just specifically handled their product in the way. So a lot of times when we go to their conferences, which is included in the actual license, is free conference for us. Only thing we pay is travel, obviously. They like to have us come up there and speak as part of their platform or whatever you want to call it, their part of their agenda, as just like lessons learned or like white paper type things for success for their product with their customers.
Well, you answered my second question because I'm very glad to know that we're not just limited to one of those visits
No.
So thank you.
Obviously, if they're like, let's say there's something major, they're going to do they're actually doing like an additional on-site visit for that. But if they're going to be like, let's say with nothing going on, they're going to be committed to actually coming on site at least once a year.
Yes, sir.
Mark, help me understand something. So in your experience, I know the software stuff. I have questions about it every year when these renewals come around, but
Yep.
So I just did some quick back of the napkin math here. And this contract over the course of the 5 years goes up around 45,000. It's 10K 1 year, then it goes up another 11K, then it goes up 12K, and then it goes up 12K again. Is that kind of annual increase in your experience normal? What are we getting? What are we getting for our?
Yes.
Clearly, that's above the rate of inflation. So, I mean,
Right.
What are we getting for our $45,000?
So a lot of the things that they've included in this list is included in that incremental pricing, and they also have a technology roadmap over the next 5 years. So they have an expected cost of like a return on investment, so to speak, on delivering that product based off of a licensing to us and do an expected cost adjustment to that. Also, the price of this includes hardware too. So the price of hardware is going to increase depending on tariffs or supply. Like right now, hard drives are going to go up. Memories, memory is going to go up because of sort of shortages. So we're seeing like right now for our desktop refresh, we're like, okay, we need to order now before that price hike hits us like in Q3 or 2 or 3. So all that's built into the contract for the 5 years. So again, it includes hardware costs too, like for our spares for replacing defective units to have RMAs and have those units in place while we're getting that actual hardware being treated and fixed. So yes, I expect that the next action item when we talk about Microsoft Office, and then next month when I talk about D365, you'll see that everyone is doing some type of incremental increase as we use their products over the years.
So do we have a way that we can determine the value proposition for Indigo? I mean, I understand this Avail company needs to get an ROI on their investment, but
Right.
what's the value proposition for us if we just keep dumping money into this thing? I mean, I understand there's not a lot of options, but
Well, there
don't we
are.
have some kind of leverage to say, come on, guys, really?
So we compared this proposition to the recent proposition that Louisville had with their Cat AVL user vendor, and this was each year was like $250,000 less than that competitor. So everyone in this field is very competitive. Where we found that for a value proposition, not only getting the full license, but our vendor relationship, we're able to leverage better pricing than our competitors.
Okay.
We're a larger we're one of their larger companies, so that we actually have a better say in what type of pricing, because the initial pricing was more than this.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Hey, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it,
Yeah.
Marks.
Thanks, Rick. Darius. Anybody else got any questions or comments? Okay. Can I get a motion for consideration and approval of Able renewal?
So move.
A motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Let the record that it's unanimous, I vote. And as Marcus, you indicated you will be up here, so.
Yep.
Next, we're going to do the Microsoft 365 annual renewal.
Yep. Chief Information Officer Marcus Burnside again. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to enter into a purchase agreement to renew our annual Microsoft 365 licensing with Dell Marketing LLC in an amount not to exceed $124,579. IPTC utilizes Microsoft products, including Microsoft Office, SharePoint, Office 365, cloud-based email, Windows Server, and Microsoft Azure Cloud hosting services. In February of 2025, it says 2026, it should have been 2025, IPTC entered into a purchase agreement with Dell Marketing LLC through Omnia Partners contract for Microsoft licensing. And for those don't know, Omnia Partners is a cooperative that hosts a vast number of state QPAs and agreements that public agencies can leverage. For instance, the city of Indianapolis uses Omnia Partners, specifically ISA and the Department of Public Works for some of their purchases. The end project for this is being funded out of an information technology operating budget. Microsoft Office 365 licensing cost, $168,095 in 2023. And as you can see, it keeps incrementing so slightly, with $119,690 in 2024, $124,809 in 2025. And for this year, it's $124,579 originally. So yesterday, it was either yesterday or Tuesday, we asked for a revised quote with reduced licensing based off of the last subscription we renewed, and we're expecting this cost to go down about $18,000. So, but this is just an amount to exceed, not to exceed. Unfortunately, that this is a software licensing renewal, and it was completed using local funds and special procurement requests. Therefore, XBE participation is not available for this procurement. And so with Microsoft licensing, it's annually renewed. You try to leverage the cost and fight Microsoft against obsolescence and what their new licenses are going to be. It's ever changing. Next year is going to be a different story. And everybody's feeling that from Microsoft when it comes to the licensing. Next month, again, like I mentioned before, D365, we fought that battle, and it did not raise as much as we expected to raise. It actually About, I would say, initially about $12,000 more than it was last year. But that's normalizing. If in next month, you'll see how we incremented up. We started below 100,000 and now it's like over $200,000. But that's the way Microsoft works sometimes. And then what you want to do if you're going to leverage pricing, you want to deal with a vendor that has large volume because they get large volume discounts, the partnerships, if they're a Microsoft Go partner, that type of stuff. So you can try to get as low a cost as possible when they start changing their product around so they can actually help their P&L per se. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm sorry.
I guess I got the same question from last time. I mean, I know we have to have this stuff, but at some point, does the value it brings, I mean, the cost of the product bring any value to us? I mean, we do the same thing with Microsoft 365 every day, right? It's an enterprise system.
Right.
So at some point, you keep jacking up the price, jacking up the price, jacking up the price. We're not getting any more value out of it. We're just paying more for it every year.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Is that an accurate statement?
If you maintain the course, what I mean by that, you're not asking for more licensing and you're not asking for any type of variation. So like for 1 year, we didn't have Power BI Pro. And then we got a request for 100 BI Pro licenses because of D365. Those licenses are not cheap per se from a licensing standpoint. So that inflates the price. So it all depends on what we're asking, what the agency is asking for Microsoft to provide for them. So like I said earlier, this is initial cost for 120/24/579. We reviewed the agreement, removed some licenses that we no longer needed, and reduced it down to 18,000. Every agency that uses Microsoft goes through this. It's just basically, it's based off of your need. And what we try to do is make sure that when people request things, we say, okay, we go through a stringent, why do you actually really truly need that? And then,
You know what, I don't take up any more time, any more people's time. I'll just how this works because I'm still not getting it.
I think Rick was asking a question that was very close to maybe the one that a couple of other of us had. So do we have a regular audit process to understand what's actually being used, what's not being used, and which pieces? Because I understand that each tool in the toolbox costs a little bit more money, even though they advertise them collectively so that you can be efficient.
So yes, we audit the license usage. So like by the end, when it comes up to time to renew the subscription, we look at the license usage over the year. But we actually manage the licenses month per month.
Okay.
And so what we find out, we try to trim down to, like for instance, all the admin staff need a certain license in order to get the full value of Microsoft Office. So what we do during the budget season is ask, are there going to be any new employees? Or, so when someone has a contract, for instance, and all of a sudden they ask, well, everybody in this, everybody we committed to actually give everybody Microsoft license. And no, you didn't. I mean, because you didn't talk to me during the budget season, you're not going to get any licensing for that contract. But those type of things we monitor, and they, people tell us that, we committed, Indigo committed to this, and then we adjust the actual subscription for the following renewal. So yes, to answer your question, yes, we audit very stringently, like the license users. Now, that's why we did an additional audit and found out that there were some licenses we did not need, and we removed them to reduce the cost for this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I got one more. So will this change any when with the blue line and we're adding all those new buses and bus stops and?
No, the only thing this will only affect if we have additional needs for the software platforms that people use, not necessarily the buses or any of the signage or anything like that.
Okay.
All of that is the Avail is taking that into account too. So as we increase our bus count, it's reflected in the cost per year. But as far as Microsoft is concerned, it's purely for administrative work only.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Marcus. So again,
More quick one. So Marcus, am I understanding that, so that 10 or 11, 12K increase year over year is contemplating the blue line going into revenue service? Or is that,
As far as the Avail technology.
Avail, yeah.
So if we increase, so we are licensed per bus. As the number of buses that we keep in service increases the cost for that contract.
I guess that's what I'm asking. So is that 10, 11, $12,000 annual increase in over the 5 years, is that reflecting the additional blue line assets of rolling stock and stuff going on? Or are we
Yes.
going to get another, we're going to have to pay more when
Oh,
those
no.
buses go on?
No, this is fixed, and what we did when we talked to them, we actually mapped out the actual fleet size because it's contingent. The pricing is contingent on the fleet size. We're not going to be penalized necessarily if we go over that number, but that projection was already talked about over the next 5 years.
Okay.
So it's
that's a
important- it's
fixed,
important-
firm fixed price for the contract over a 5-year term.
Right. So it's important for us to not have a abundance of fleet because it affects the actual contract itself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
okay. That's what I was trying to ask as well. So thanks. Excuse me. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Can I get a motion for consideration and approval of Microsoft 365 annual renewal?
So moved.
There being a motion and second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
Just
Marcus?
one more thing. We used to come to committee meetings and discuss departments' contracts. We used to do that. I'm open to discussing any upcoming contracts within the Finance and Service Committee meetings so that you have a better understanding of exactly what we're going to be trending
Okay.
towards.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we did not have any nay votes, so let the record reflect it was unanimous and those were approved. Thanks, Marcus. Next is action item A8, consideration and approval of e-builder construction management software renewal on our senior project manager of capital facilities projects, Sarah Stens.
It's another software one. Thanks. Sarah Sten, Senior Project Manager for Capital Facilities Projects. It is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to execute a 1-year renewal contract with eBuilder for the continued use of their construction and project management software in an amount not to exceed $220,500. Back in 2017, Indigo selected eBuilder as their project management software for the construction of the Red Line. Ever since then, we have continued to use the software to be able to manage our BRT projects. In addition, over the past 9 years, we've leveraged the program to be used on all of our road projects as well as all of our capital facilities projects. In addition, we've also found some additional uses for the program. We use the program with security to help run for contractor badging, as well as using it the past 3 or 4 years to execute our capital plan for our budget. So we've utilized the program for a lot of different things year over year. This is another good example of a software program that continues to be more expensive every single year that I bring it to you all. For a couple of reasons, there's a bigger jump this year than you might have expected. So last year, the fee was $150,000. About 2 years ago, Trimble purchased eBuilder. Trimble is a pretty large company that runs software programs and surveying equipment. The new program is called Unity Construct. With this purchase of the program, the way that we are given pricing year over year has changed. Instead of having a set in stone value increase The program is based off of your capital spend. So the expectation for what your capital program will be for the year is kind of how they determine what the value and the cost of the program is going to be. So last year, when we asked for the renewal, the blue line wasn't officially in our capital plan yet. So this year, we're seeing that increase because we're managing all of those hundreds of thousands and also millions of dollars through the program. The expectation is that we'll continue to see a value similar to this year over year, but there is no promise. As our capital budget fluctuates, the cost for the program will also fluctuate year over year. This past year, we've had conversation to try to mitigate some of that risk and also future plan for the day that eBuilder is no longer of use and purpose to Indigo. We recognize that likely at the tail end of the Blue Line construction or the new East Campus garage, that the program will likely not be utilized to the extreme that it is today. And we would be looking to offload from the program and moving to a different platform or a different option and opportunity for how we manage our construction projects. I think I've covered most of it, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have in regards to the program.
So, Mr. Chairman, you
Go right ahead.
actually not a software license fee question, but do we own the data?
That's
So
the question.
yes and no. We own the information that we put on the server, but we don't own any physical entity that has us like being able to just hand you like a disk that says, here's your data back. So one of the tasks will be figuring out how to offload that information off of the server into Indigo's own server or wherever we would want to keep that information.
Okay, thanks.
And Rick was about the data and kind of the future, what happens, future state. And
It's
so,
interesting because if I understood you correctly, Sarah, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So as our capital needs diminish, right? Our capital spend rather diminishes, the cost of this program should diminish with it.
Should.
And then at the end of the day, we don't need it anymore and we jettison, then what happens? How do we collect that data back, right?
And that's kind of where we're at right now is these early kind of conversations because we have several years to work with still of how exactly that looks. From conversations with folks, I can't say Trimble is really interested in making it easy for you to get the information because it's easiest for them to continue to pay for a service, right? So we would have to, my understanding is we would have to pay a consultant to be able to move that information and store it elsewhere. So there's not a service or a courtesy that happens at the end of the life of the contract. We would have to have a plan for how we want to collect that information back.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
we'll be interested in seeing that plan, Sarah.
Yes.
Thank you.
So move. Second.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Director of Capital Projects, Matt Duffy, here to recommend that the Board of Directors authorize the President and CEO to execute an interlocal cooperation agreement, or ICA, with the Indianapolis Department of Public Works, DPW, to define the terms for coordination between IPTC's Blue Line project and DPW's West Washington Street project. And that includes a contribution of $6 million. The Blue Line was originally planned on the Washington Street portion to go all the way on the west end of High School Road, and on the east end, the town of Cumberland. The east end has not changed, still terminates in the town of Cumberland near Meyer. The west end changed as the project progressed, plans and cost estimates were developed. It was decided to move the blue line off of Washington Street at Holt Road and then utilize I-70 to get to the airport at that point. The city agreed to pick up the infrastructure part of that, of what was going to be in the Blue Line project west of Holt Road. So that includes pavement restoration, storm sewer work, sidewalks, lots of infrastructure in that part of the project that the city agreed to do. So the two projects are generally separate, and they pick up or match at Holt Road, with the exception of the stormwater trunk line and outfall that overlaps with the blue line between Holt Road and Eagle Creek to the east. And there's on the second page of this action item, there's a figure that shows where that overlap area. So to maximize the construction and schedule efficiencies, it was decided that the Blue Line's Package A contractor should take the trunk line from the outfall to Holt Road. That's within the Blue Line construction limits. And so the contribution would first go towards that infrastructure on the project. And then whatever's remaining would go towards the city's West Washington Street project for transit supportive elements, such as sidewalks, curb ramps, crosswalks, because there will still be local route service that Indigo will provide west of Holt Road on Washington Street. It's anticipated that this trunk line work will start this year, and then the city's West Washington Street project would pick up in 2027. This is funded through the local funds on the Blue Line contingency budget. The contribution to the city's project does not have DBE or XBE commitment, but the Package A work that's being added does have a 10.5%, DBE participation, and that will not change. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Matt? Go ahead, Rick.
Hey, Matt, so I just so I'm clear, we've got the map up, great. So where the green line, which is the sewer trunk line, right?
Correct.
And the blue line diverge, are you saying that we're gonna pick up the all the way to the yellow star? Is it gonna be our responsibility?
That is correct. So from Holt Road all the way to the east
way
to the
to the-
creek is where the Blue Line contractor will do that work. And that's where it outfalls to the Eagle Creek. And that includes so it goes through private property that the city acquired, and they have that in hand. And we cleared this with the FTA and went through environmental assessment
Okay.
as well.
All right, and so when you say our contractor, the guy that's the firm that is doing the actual blue line work will also be responsible for doing this work from Holt Road to the outflow,
That's correct.
right? And so what the $6 million to the city goes for the Holt Road to High School Road?
So to be clear, a portion of that work, so we're expecting that to be in the $3 to $4 million range, the trunk line and the outfall. And whatever is left over would go towards the city's project. And I don't think I described it well enough what the contribution goes towards, or what's in the agreement. But the costs that Indigo is allocating to the city project includes design and inspection services that Indigo incurs for the trunk line and outfall itself. So there's designer costs and inspection costs to oversee that work because our contractor is doing it. And those costs will be included in that agreement, and included in that $6 million amount.
Oh, okay,
As well.
all right,
Yeah,
thanks.
if that makes sense. So 3 to 4 million goes towards the trunk line and outfall and whatever's remaining. And we're not gonna tally up those costs until it's completed. So there could be change orders that are associated with it. And in the agreement, there's language to account for those costs to get allocated there.
Okay, I got it now, thanks. Thanks for clarifying.
Any other questions or comments? I have one. Was Mr. Fry involved in negotiating this?
I think you know the answer to that question. Yes. Yes, he was. Yes.
He's a pro at that, so,
Yes.
all right, good.
Still putting final touches on the agreement.
Okay, thanks a lot, Matt. Can I get a motion for consideration approval of West Washington Street agreement with the city of Indianapolis? There being a motion and second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect it was a unanimous vote. Approved. Thanks. Next is action item A10, and this is consideration and adoption of resolution number 2026-03, approving and ratifying the updated IPTC cafeteria plan. Director of Compensation and Benefits, Christine Sechrist, will present.
Good
Thank you.
afternoon. Again, Kirsten Sechrist, Director of Compensation and Benefits for the Department of People. Sorry, I'm short.
Well, that's, I do it all the time.
I'm actually here today, like you said, to discuss the consideration and adoption of resolution number 2026-03, approving and ratifying the updated IPTC cafeteria plan. So it's recommended that IPTC staff and the Board of Directors adopt resolution number 2026-03, approving and ratifying the updates to the corporation's cafeteria plan effective January the 1st of 2026. For some background, effective January 1 of 2020, IPTC established the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, doing business as Indigo Cafeteria Plan pursuant to Section 125 of the IRS Code of 1986 to allow IPTC employees to choose among different types of benefits based on their own particular goals, desires, and needs. Pursuant to the plan, employees may contribute to flexible spending accounts and dependent care flexible spending accounts from their paycheck on a pre-tax basis to pay for items such as prescription medicines and childcare costs. The plan is required by law to be updated on a periodic basis, as well as whenever needed to reflect the current IRS regulations and changes in law. For a discussion standpoint, IPTC needs to amend the plan to reflect changes to the employee contribution limits to the flexible spending accounts allowed by the IRS effective January 1 of 2026. The amended and updated plan must be approved by the board by resolution. The amended plan and a summary plan description are attached to the proposed resolution number 2026-03 as exhibits A and B thereto respectively. From a fiscal impact, the changes to the plan do not affect IPTC's cost, and any costs associated with offering and maintaining the plan are included in the budget by the Department of People. Currently, there are no DBE or XBE participation because there are no subcontracting opportunities. So I welcome any questions about that.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Well, just a comment, Mr. Chairman. I got the exhibits that you attached, and that was a long read, but it was very thorough, very comprehensive. I just have one, I guess I do have one question.
Sure.
Do you have people on your staff that could help an employee? Like, I read through that thing and most of it was like ancient Greek. Are there people that can help our employees kind of navigate this and see what's kind of in the best interest of them and their family?
We can. So to provide a little insight, the flexible spending account plan is only available to employees that were hired before a certain time because of being grandfathered into the PPO plans. That's what that works through. So if an employee were to come to our office and have questions about the plan, myself or someone on my staff would be able to sit down and discuss what the options are.
Oh, so this is not something we're offering. This is people that have been with us for a while then. Okay.
Already have it. They're already enrolled. The
But
problem.
they all probably know what they're doing, right? Because they've been doing it for a while.
They
right?
do. I mean,
Yeah.
what they know is that they can go to their doctor and use the card for co-pays. They can go to Walgreens and pick up prescriptions. So they understand it to work that way. And then if using it for dependent care, then they understand that daycare, after-school program fees can be used with that card as well if they have it.
Oh, okay. So Kristen, will this eventually, will go away then when those people that are on the plan, that were grandfathered onto the plan, retire or otherwise a trip?
That's correct. So
Okay.
when those people, if they have the option at any time to come off of that and go to a high deductible health plan if they want to, right? So they can do that. If they retire, they will also come off of that plan. And then eventually, when there is no one left, then all we offer is the high deductible health plan. We currently have two
Got
that
it.
employees
Okay.
can choose
I
from.
understand now. Thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah. It was a hefty read, by the way.
Yeah.
But it was actually really informative for me, and I'm not going to toss a bunch of questions at you, Kirsten, but I did think that it was probably a good opportunity at some point for us, maybe even in service committee or finance or somewhere, for just to be able to do a little bit of a deep dive into this. I was kind of curious, to Rick's point, like, how many people do we still have on this, and what are the ratios looking like? So just at some point, it might be nice to do kind of an information session on this topic.
Sure, and if you want that information, I can send it over to you. We have a report that shows how many people currently have that plan.
I would enjoy
I
that.
can get that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one more question, related to, if I understood you correctly, this is available to those who were hired before a certain date. So do they currently need to be on the plan, or if they were hired before that date, they still have an opportunity to join the plan simply because they were hired before a certain date, no matter if they're currently on the plan or not?
Great question. So anyone that was hired, I believe it to have been before 2020, they are eligible for that plan. So let's say, for example, he or she is currently on a spouse's plan, and they decide for whatever the reason to come to our plan, because they were already enrolled or already hired before that date, they are eligible to receive that plan. So someone like myself hired in 2024, I'm not, but for anyone that was hired, if we know their effective date is before 2020, they are eligible for that plan. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, can we get a motion for consideration and adoption of resolution number 2026-03, approving and ratifying the updated Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation cafeteria plan?
Second.
Okay. This matter being adopted of a resolution or bylaws requires a roll call vote. And Bob, will you do the roll call, please?
Yes, directors on the present motion, please indicate your vote when I call your name. Director Slash,
Aye.
Director Quick, Director Fagan, Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Hahn.
Aye,
Resolution is adopted unanimously.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, because
Thank
that
you.
was very, very informative. Okay, next, under 5 information items. And the item I1 is the finance report presented by our interim chief financial officer, Justin Burko.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Justin Burko, Interim Chief Financial Officer for Indigo. And tonight I'm going to walk you through our December month-end financials and provide a summary of our year-end position. For the month of December, revenue came in $1.4 million under budget, but this variance is largely timing related, as we received most of our federal assistance reimbursements earlier in 2025. So that reduced what we normally would have recognized in December on a straight line budget basis. Despite the December shortfall, total revenue for the year exceeded budget by $5.3 million. Under operating expenses for December, personal services expenses were under budget $1.25 million, and for the full year, under budget by $8.3 million. The primary driver of this variance continues to be staffing vacancies and attrition. So that has resulted directly in underspending in salaries and benefits. Under other services and charges, you'll see that that category was over budget by approximately $2.5 million. Again, this is also something that was expected, and it's largely attributable to several routine year-end factors. The first being that in December, our accounting team works really hard to backdate invoices for 2025 services that are received in January. And so in some cases, we record 2 invoices in the same month. This is particularly common with several of our large contracted service providers, but it ensures that our expenses are properly matched to the appropriate fiscal year. We also paid several large software renewals in December, which are under other services and charges. And then I'm sure you all recall that we had a large snow event in December. And so when that expense is concentrated in a single month, it can create a bit of a variance in the monthly report for that category. You'll also notice that materials and expenses were miscellaneous expenses were approximately 80% under budget for the month. And that's because at the direction of Director Wilson, we conducted a detailed review of this category. And based on that analysis, it was recommended and agreed that certain larger recurring expenses specifically related to cell phone service be reclassified to a more appropriate reporting category. But for the year, other services and charges were $10 million under budget, and this is largely due to underspending in some of these contracted services, as well as our ability to utilize rollover appropriations from 2024. Materials and supplies were under budget for the month by $271,000 and $3.1 million for the year. The primary driver here was the extremely favorable pricing on our diesel fuel contract compared to what was built into the budget at the time and before the procurement. Overall, year to date, we came in $21.4 million under budget, which is enough in savings to cover what we had originally anticipated funding the operating budget with through our fund balance. So that's good news for our, obviously, fund balance and sustainability going forward. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
If there's no questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to take the board's temperature on something. So I've been talking with Justin. We have been going over numbers and going over how we report this information to the board. And I note, do we have this in the package?
Yes.
Can you go to the next frame, Tamika? Next one. Okay, that's the one I want to look at. Thanks. So colleagues, you know, this document is like totally redundant to that document. Yet that document shows everything in one place. And so my thought, and I discussed this with the finance committee earlier today, is that we just have Justin provide this report, and then he can, in his narrative, he can talk through the things that we think, and in full transparency, Justin and I meet ahead of the board meeting and ahead of the finance committee meeting and kind of go through all this stuff. And I, you know, I point out the things that I think I'd like him to highlight. He points out things that he'd like to highlight. And so we kind of come to a meeting of the minds. And I think it'd be easier for us to look at and see everything all in one place. And B, it's time consuming for Justin and his people to do a redundant report that is kind of not necessary. But if you guys feel strongly that you want to have this document, then we'll continue to do so.
Are you gonna put us on the spot like that, Rick?
Yeah, exactly. See, this is what's called leveraging my position. Tonight, if you guys want to think about it and let me know your pleasure, then Justin and I can work on that for next time. Okay?
I appreciate the clarity on that.
I would say as chairman of finance, that you would have the prerogative to do that, but unless somebody's got a big
I want to make sure
problem.
that our colleagues, you know, are comfortable. You know, not everybody likes to look at Excel spreadsheets as much as I do. So, so if they find it helpful, then we'll continue to do it. But if we don't need that redundant effort, then it seems like to me that we can free up some more of their time to do other good things.
Okay. Mary Ann, anything to add? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board members? Justin? Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we've got item 1I2, and that's the Indigo Foundation Quarterly Report presented by Emily Moe.
Still Emily Moe, still the executive director of Indigo Foundation, here for our first quarterly report to you all of 2026. I wanted to start off with a recap of our Transit Equity Day celebration that happened just a couple weeks ago on February 4th. So again, Transit Equity Day this is now probably our 4th year celebrating that. It's held on Rosa Parks' birthday to draw awareness to equity issues related to transportation and how we can all be part of making transportation more accessible. So this year we had a wonderful sponsorship from One America Financial Foundation. They supported the event in addition to many other sponsors and enabled us to have fare free on that day. And so more than 15,500 rides happened on that day. That includes paratransit as well. And then in the afternoon, we had a celebration at the Idle Jordan Museum. We had about 200 people there in attendance. I was really happy with the turnout that we had. Thank you to Director Quick was able to be there, as well as a lot of Indigo teammates. We also had leadership from the City County Council, CICF, One America, Indianapolis Foundation, Lilly, Indy Chamber. It was really a great room to hear our messaging for that day. And the theme of this year was transit funding. We can go to the next slide. For those that weren't able to join, I just wanted to highlight some of the key messaging from that day. We also did a recap email to our whole database in this last week, so hopefully you all got that. If you didn't, let me know, because that means you're not on our list. Highlighting a quote from the dean of the Founders College at Butler University. She said, "When you hear about students with some college credit and no degree, it's not because they're not smart. It's because life got in the way. And for 57% of students, it's transportation is the reason that gets in the way for them." So we had some really great panelists. This panel was led by Ted Grain on our board and with Eskenazi Health, Ahmed Young from Indianapolis Foundation, Shannon Jenkins from United Way, Matt Mindrum from Indy Chamber, and Ben Grandy from Glick Philanthropies was on that panel. On the next page, some more quotes for you from Jenny, who's presented, and then also Rachel and I presented. Rachel gave a great presentation on what we've learned over the last 5 years working with our nonprofit partners. So all of our nonprofit grantees were given a free ticket for this event. And so about half the room was made up of them. And so it was great to have them all there intermixing with our donors. But some of the takeaway messaging that you heard over and over was that transportation is a basic need. And we continue to see that on surveys and all different ways. It shows up as being really important, but it's not funded the same as housing or food or other basic needs. And the pool of funding for transportation is important. Yes, it's self-serving because we need that funding, but also all of our nonprofit partners need it to be able to purchase fare. And there's just not enough grants out there available or funders that understand transit in the way that we need them to. Next page, I'll give an analogy that I've been workshopping and sharing in different rooms, but when you think about food access, nobody says a person is food secure when you give them a meal or 1 week of meals. But for some reason with bus passes, the thought is different. I mean, they're thought of as, well, if we give you transportation to this service, you're good, or that's at least how it's funded. And that's not how it works. I mean, bus passes are the same as meals. You need them every day. And we're starting to shift how we think or how we're sharing with our funders and challenging the funding community to think about this differently, in that the bus passes are great and we know our nonprofits need these grants, but they're Band-Aids essentially, they're meals. So they're important, but they're not helping to create a solution for mobility security. And so the takeaway message from that day was to really get to the root causes of this. We need everyone in the room. We need all levels of government, business, philanthropic sector to help us move this forward. So any questions about Transit Equity Day? Or Director Quick, I didn't know if you wanted to mention anything from
I will
put you on the
just-
spot.
No problem at all. That was my first time attending Transit Equity Day, and I agree it was a phenomenal turnout, and the presenters on the panel did an excellent job and provided some good information, as well as you and your team. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you. We're already starting to look towards next year. I think this was a proof of concept for us this year, of turning this into more of a fundraiser event. And so next year, we're looking at a facility that can hold more like 500 people and have a stage where we can have speakers up there. We'd like to be able to give the nonprofits more than one free pass to come, because we often work with 2 or 3 people within organizations. And then we want to also be able to sell tables to sponsors, because that's how people are thinking of it. I mean, like Director Hahn, you were saying, you're like, I'm going to fill my table. Like, let's just do that. Let's sell this as a, $1,000 a table and make this into a fundraiser, so that I know you all in our board have expressed concern for our golf outing, the future of it after the blue line is completed. Are we still going to get those construction companies supporting us in the same level? So we want to increase Transit Equity Day so that we're not as dependent on that golf outing. Okay, next up, we still have our Indigo Swag Store. The 50th anniversary items are leaving this month, so you have another week or two to get those items. But I wanted to share on here some of the winter products that are out, some really cute things on the store, if I do say so myself. And thank you to the Indigo's Public Affairs team for helping to keep this store fresh. They've been a big help this year, just keeping quarterly, I think, is what we're aiming for, to have some new items come out to give people reasons to keep coming back to it. And so you'll be seeing some new items at some point in the spring. Next is a deeper dive than usual in our finance and fundraising. I know you all have been asking for more information on that, so I wanted to give that to you. Some of these are things you've seen before. So first off is thank you for getting us to that 100% participation for both boards this year, or I guess that was in 2025. The fun thing about fundraising is we start at 0 again the next year. So I have to ask you again to give your support. And we are talking to the boards about considering just monthly donations. I know that's what I do. That's what Director Wilson does. And you don't have to think about it, and it's done and helps us with more reliable income. But next is the chart that I usually show you all for our number of donors. Last year, we ended slightly behind where we were in 2024 in terms of the number of donors. You may remember in 2024, we had that, what was it, SB 52, that drove a lot of new donors in that year. And so we were able to recapture some of those, but not all of them. And I think that's part of the difference there. And I'll mention later, one of our measurable outcomes or goals for this year is looking at that renewal rate to make sure we're keeping people going. So this is your deep dive into how we got our fundraising goal, or really like the revenue side of our budget for the year. And so I wanted to walk you all through how we got to this and how we're approaching fundraising differently in 2026. So our fundraising team now has 4 individuals that are part of it. I wouldn't say there's 4 of us working full-time on it. I'm part of that. I have other things to do too, but it consists of me, Yvonne Kalama on our team is our grant writer. Hannah on our team is responsible for events and communications, and also doing some of these annual giving things like the mass communications to donors. And we also added a consultant in the fall to help focus on corporate solicitations. So a game changer that I'm noticing already this year is that our staff has been on the team for at least a year. I mean, next week is Hannah's 1-year anniversary. Usually at this time of year, we're training a new director of development or offboarding one, and the retention of staff, even though we haven't had a director of development since June, has really changed our approach and is enabling us to use fundraising best practices. So as I go through this, the same team that's working on this today is the same team that put together the budget numbers in the fall that we're working towards. And I don't think have had that so far. So I'm feeling really optimistic for 2026. We also, as this team, we meet weekly. So a lesson learned in the past is that we have so much on our plates that we'll have our assignments, but oftentimes they can slip, and then before we know it, oops, it's June, and now what are we going to do? So I wanted to be sure that that doesn't happen this year. We can't let that happen because we have a very aggressive goal for this year. So that group of 4 is meeting every Thursday morning for a couple hours. going through donor by donor, making sure we're all on the same page and committing to each other what we're going to do by the next meeting. So back to the chart that you see in front of you. So this is the revenue side of our 2026 budget. The fundraising team is focused on those highlighted areas, so the individual, corporate, and foundation giving. And so our magic number for contributions this year is $1,707,004. I love round numbers, and this is just killing me that it's not beautifully round, but anyway, it's close enough. 70% of that million needs to be unrestricted for general operations or special, and that can come through things like the golf outing. So the next page, sorry. go ahead.
Emily, is that $1,007,004 number, is that, when you say contributions, is that all, that foundations, grants, everything?
Foundations, corporate, and individual.
Okay.
So it doesn't include government or the swag store or in-kind or bus pass sales. It's just those top 3 lines.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, grants are considered part of foundations or corporate. So in the fall, we created a list of prospects with our expected amounts or goal amounts for 2026. We classified what fund we think that's going to come in, like this donor typically gives to the Nonprofit Mobility Access Fund grants. That's a certain fund, or they usually give to the golf outing. We'll categorize it there and even put in what month we expect that money to come in. And so that's what fed into the revenue side of our budget. So I'm in my 6th year now of fundraising for Indigo Foundation. And every year when you make budgets or projections at any organization, the more years of information you have, the better. And so every year we're getting a little bit better at this. It's always some guesswork because, you know, donor priorities can change or contacts can change, but every year we're just getting a bit better at refining our process. And I wanted to thank Rachel Moss, our Director of Programs and Operations, for continually improving this process and challenging me to grow every year of making it a little bit better. So obviously, for this purpose, I blocked out the donor names, but under entity, there's donor names there. So I wanted you all to know that there's a line item for every donor, and this totals with that $1 million there. Next up, I then created a spreadsheet to figure out our fundable projects. What are we going to focus on this year? Because as I think I've shared with you all before, in the past, it's been like, oh, there's a grant for that, let's go for it. Or whatever we can apply for, we do. And with our aggressive fundraising goals, we have to stay focused on what we spend our time on. And so in this spreadsheet, I have all the fundable projects, then our annual amount, our target, we're going to try to get for that project. And then using our operating agreement, the 65-35 split we have, I worked out like how much of that would end up going to Indigo if this is a sponsorship, and how much of that is coming to the foundation. Or if it's a free fair day, we have to be sure we're covering what Indigo's lost revenue would be from that day. So making sure we're factoring all those things in as we're planning for the year. So if we were to raise or secure everything on this spreadsheet, all these projects, and it keeps going much longer than this, we would exceed our contributions goal. So we have more than enough things to ask for money for. You may notice I do have the paratransit fare increase delay on here. Might want to hold your applause, but we have spent time seeking funding for that and have been considering it. I mean, I think it was July, August when you first asked us to be looking at that. Unfortunately, I don't have a funder lined up for this amount. 2025 was the most competitive I've ever seen, especially post-COVID with funding. I think you'll hear that from any nonprofit you're working with. It shifted how money is working, and it's becoming more and more important for relationships relationships matter even more than they did. They've always mattered, but so I would say this paratransit fare increase is not off the table. We're always have our ears and eyes open, but I would say it's highly unlikely at this point we'll be able to secure that $250,000 by June. And a challenge with this particular line item, when I'm raising money for veteran free rides, $10,000, $50,000 is helping you can use that, right? Like it's still helpful even if I'm not getting you the full 2 million you need. But for this project in particular, I know we needed to get that at least 250,000 to be able to like, flip the switch and say, yes, we can do this. And so while we may have been able to get pieces of it, we don't have the donor base that's giving at that level right now. So I'm sorry, but I'll keep trying.
Don't take it off the list,
I'm
please.
not. It's still there. It's still very important too. I mean, all these things are important and we feel the value of it. But back to our Transit Equity Day messaging, we have just realized how much room we have to go in getting the community to understand why this stuff is important too.
Can talk about it offline.
Okay, great. If you have ideas, if anyone has ideas, I'm always welcome to hear those. Okay, so our main fundraising focus areas, so this is on the next slide, are the ADA accessibility improvements. That's the far east side. There's a group of, I believe it's 54 stops and 6 traffic crosswalk kind of things. I'm not using the right terms, but on the far east side. And so it's a big project of over $3 million. And so we're trying to fill some of those or sponsor some of those stops like we did for the near east side. Fare assistance, that includes the free and discounted fare for nonprofits, as well as fare assistance for groups that Indigo is not required by law to provide. So that's veterans and students. And then also free fare days fall under that fare assistance category. And then third is our operations. I know both boards would like us to be more independent from Indigo, and so we have to focus on our operations and getting that general support to be able to do that. Next, so we have our prospect list and we have the projects of what we want. And then we have our database, which is Razor's Edge. We've had that for 2 years now. So each fundraiser creates action steps in Razor's Edge for their donors in their portfolio. In our weekly fundraising team meetings, this is what we're reviewing. We're reviewing what prospects have, if there's a grant application coming up or, hey, we want that person for the golf outing, we should probably reach out to them now. So this is what we're reviewing. And so those 4 individuals of the fundraising team all have their own portfolio with assigned people and gifts in Razor's Edge. So this is why we got Razor's Edge a couple years ago. And this is the first year we're, I would say, effectively using it for what it's supposed to be used for. So our 2026 fundraising performance metrics, I'm almost done. We want to average 8 donor meetings per month. I mentioned about it being more competitive, and so something we're doing this year is we don't want to apply for a grant unless we've had a meeting with them, because that highly increases our likelihood of being able to get that grant. In our first 6 weeks of the year, I think we're at around a dozen meetings that have either happened or are scheduled in the next week. We want to increase our renewal rate to 45%. Overall, the national average hangs around 43% renewal rate for donors. And I think last year we were closer to 35 or 38. So that's something that we're looking at, of the touch points with donors and how to get people to keep giving. And then you see that number again of the 1,007,000 to raise from individuals and corporations. So that is my deep dive, and then you can see how this factors into the whole budget. So those are the top 3 lines. The individual corporate foundation is the million that I talked about, and what I just walked through is our plan for how to get all those. But this is where you all come in and where everyone comes in. I mean, it takes a village to raise this, and so we welcome your support in this area. I have on the next slide just ideas for how to help. First off is making your personal pledge or setting up a monthly gift early now. The more we get our board and kind of inner circle committed at the beginning of the year, the less staff time we have to spend on that, and then the more we can focus on other things. If there's people that are in your circles that you feel like I need to meet or need to be introduced to the Indigo Foundation, let me know and let's go meet with them. And then with the golf outing, we're going to start putting that on sale or start promoting that early this year. So we're starting hopefully next week to get that registration set up so we can start having that coming in. Because by right after the golf outing, you're going to start hearing us talk about Transit Equity Day to get, now we have 2 events that we're selling. So we have to time them out so that people can budget for it appropriately. And that's a QR code to give just if you're motivated today. But that is all. That concludes my report to you all. Any questions?
Thank you, Emily. Is there any questions from the board?
Can you stick around for a second? I got a
Of
question.
course.
Okay. That concludes our formal meeting this evening. I think, Jennifer, you wanted to say a couple words in closing?
Sure, I would be happy to. This is Jennifer Piers, President and CEO, and I wanted to just take an opportunity on behalf of the Indigo staff to say a quick goodbye to Bart Brown. So after 7 years of service to Indigo, his tenure ended as CFO a couple weeks ago. And although he preferred a quiet transition, I wanted to share a couple of the things he accomplished while he was here. So a couple important milestones. He was our chief financial officer during COVID, a time obviously of great uncertainty financially, in addition to so many other ways. He was able to bring in over $115 million in federal funds to support our recovery efforts during that time. He also led the way in securing funding for our large-scale capital projects during those 7 years that he was here, including most recently overseeing the issuance of $125 million in bonds to fund the Blue Line. And he established and maintained strong internal fiscal controls, reducing risk and resulting in an excellent AA credit rating for the agency. So I just wanted to share my sincere appreciation for the work that he did for his leadership over the last 7 years. And we wish him the very best in his next chapter.
Thanks, Jennifer. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to also echo your statements and thanks to Bart. We all worked with him very hard. Rick, more than anyone. And I don't know if you want to say anything or not.
Well, at the risk of getting a little emotional, I've known Bart for over 30 years. I've worked with him in many capacities over those years, and I think I can say this without fear of contradiction. He's probably one of the best government finance guys I've ever worked with, and I wish him all the best. And I'm sure that he's going to be doing something good for somebody somewhere. And like Jeannie said, he wanted this to be a quiet transition, but I don't think I could let him go without telling him how much I love him, how much I appreciate him, and how special it was to have this opportunity to work with him here at Indigo. So thank you.
Thank you. That is all that we have tonight. We want to thank you all for being here, participating. It was a pretty long meeting tonight, but we had a lot to cover. And we look forward to seeing you in March at our next meeting. We're now adjourned.